way in which she speaks is the most absolutely entitled, condescending, just disgusting. And so, yeah, the fact that she is speaking as a Jewish person on this issue in that manner is disgusting. It's
not only that, but the racism. If you want to talk about what real racism is, this is real racism. This is a person who basically is telling the Black community, listen when the white woman in the suburbs of the city is talking to you. Listen, because we know better than you. That's where the real racism comes into play. Like how ungrateful you people of color can possibly be that you don't come to our side when we are telling you.
But it's the way in which she says it. It's just so unbelievably.
Well, let's see how much of this entitled. You guys can actually stomach, because it isn't easy to stomach.
Do I have white privilege? Absolutely, I have white privilege. But the idea is to recognize it and lend it instead of ooze it and be completely oblivious about it.
Or defensive about it.
Yeah.
Kind of like Juliana Margulies. There we go.
It's those kids who are spewing this anti-Semitic hate that have no idea if they stepped foot in an Islamic country. These people who want us to call them they, them, or whatever they want us to call them, which I have respectfully really made a point of doing. Like, be whoever you want to be. It's those people that will be the first people beheaded and their heads played with a soccer ball, like a soccer ball on the field. There was a film being shown by this Black lesbian club on Columbia campus, and they put signs up that said "No Jews allowed." And as someone who plays a lesbian journalist on the morning show, I'm more offended by it as a lesbian than I am as a Jew, to be honest with you, because I want to say to them, you fucking idiots. You don't exist. Like, you're even lower than the Jews. A, you're Black, and B, you're gay.
I mean, I think it's funny.
And that's not even the same clip that they played. So I heard another part of it that I just thought was so condescending. I hadn't even heard this section of that interview.
I didn't hear that either. Thank you, Colin.
Yes,
that was a great
that was a whole new little clip. So apparently the whole clip just oozes with that. Oh my God. Yeah, the part I heard was bad, but this was bad.
There is some truth to that, young groove. I would agree with that. There is some truth to that.
There's both.
There's both.
And this is where people don't like the term intersectionality, but it's both.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're born male, you have male privilege just by being born male. There's no doubt about it. If you're born white and male, you have privilege for both of those things, right? Like, so that's just what it means. It's like, yeah, I definitely have white privilege. I have, not white male privilege. I have so we have, and yes, there is zip code privilege. There is socioeconomic, but there's all different kinds of privilege. But by being white in and of itself, is one of those privileges.
Now if you haven't adjusted your screens, I am white.
Oh, and he almost glows, but I'm with him. I feel like I'm the tanner person.
And I'm male. Now, am I privileged? It depends on what you mean by that.
That's not what it means when you say white privilege. It doesn't mean that you are not poor or have not worked your ass off.
To the average person, we are on the same playing field. The overwhelming majority of people are on the same playing field. You know why somebody like Juliana Margulies is dangerous? Because she's playing from a level she's playing from a rung on the ladder that's a hell of a lot higher than any of you are and probably ever will be. So she's in a position of decision-making power. And this is what ultimately ends up happening in many instances across many different businesses. There is a bigoted element that exists within certain corners of the Jewish culture. Now, is that what I would consider to be universal experience? No, it typically exists amongst the affluent. That is where it exists. But why is this a problem? Because Juliana Margulies is very interconnected with the power vacuum of the actual system itself. AIPAC, ADL, J Street, you name it. This is the type of person, much like Deborah Messing, as we pointed out, that is always at the high roller events. And again, they live in this very protected bubble in society where it doesn't really matter if you're Jewish or if you're Black or if you're Hispanic or you're German or Italian. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're rich, you're powerful, and you're influential. And Juliana Margulies, to one degree or another, does check off those boxes in those powerful circles. And even if they're in the minority, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that she can get things done in the worst way possible. And the other thing about these audio clips of Margulies that cannot be understated, she lets her bigotry out and she doesn't hide it. She's basically said, I've had enough of pretending. I'm going to say what I want to say.
About those people.
About those people and those people. And the fact that she even said as a lesbian, I'm like, you're not a lesbian. You're playing one.
Right. So she's like, I am Jewish, but I play a lesbian, but I'm more offended as a lesbian. Are you kidding me? Like that is, oh my God, oozing condescension.
Absolutely. And
oozing condescension.
And that's it. And that's where the whole thing is what people need to understand when we're talking about white privilege.
Yeah, AutoNation, race is a tool of the capitalists. Tell me what is white. They invented it. And absolutely, race is a social construct. I don't doubt that whatsoever. But at this point in time in history, it has been so ingrained in us that there are so many problems as a result of it. So yes, I do agree that it is a social construct, but now it's become a problem because we've made it a problem. And to not talk about it doesn't make it go away. And I don't care if Morgan Freeman said that. That's just not real. That's silly.
For our friends in the chat who are obviously on the political right, and there's nothing wrong with that. So let's make that clear. We can have a difference of opinion, and you can believe that there's this anti-white racism. And listen, there is anti-white racism, but there isn't an infrastructure in this country designed to screw white people.
And I don't agree. I don't think there is, that's not a thing.
Well,
there's no white racism.
Well, that's what,
look up the definition of race. That's not a thing. Are there people that are prejudiced against white people? Absolutely. Are there people that are biased against white people? Absolutely.
100%.
I actually have friends that don't like white people. I don't blame them in a lot of cases based on their life experience. But but they're not racist. They can't be racist. There's no racism against white people.
Well, I'll disagree with that.
But no, look up the definition. It's again, words have meanings.
My personal experience with people that are in certain communities, especially the Black community, when it comes to white people, isn't a hatred factor. It's a trust factor.
It's a mistrust factor.
That
is real. But what I'm saying is that words have meanings. I always say that. And you cannot, there is no such thing as racism against white people. That's not a thing. That's a made up thing. I don't know who made it up. I don't know where it was made up. I'm sure there's a long history of why it was made up, but that's not a real thing.
Okay. And again, you don't like my music. That's not true. And statistical data shows that isn't, again, there is a way that it is done in this country that wants to highlight very specifically that, let's say, Black men are being killed by cops. But statistically speaking, that it's not true. So the whole point is that we're supposed to hate each other.
Right.
And the second that the working class understands, much like why we are huge advocates for actual labor unions, is because that's when it gets thrown out the.
All I'm saying is you can say that there's a bunch of people that hate white people, but it's not racism by definition. Understand what words mean. Racism, there is no such thing as white racism.
Bill Bradley has it right. There is more than one definition in the dictionary for racism. Only one of them includes the necessity for institutional power, and that is the new definition. Ultimately, it is about institutional power. That is where it comes from somebody like Juliana Margulies. She sits high up on the hog. She has had a successful acting career of over 30 years. She is a multimillionaire many times over, lives an extremely comfortable and privileged life. And that extremely comfortable and privileged life, at least in terms of what the affluent Jewish class is feeling right now, because not everybody's on board with Israel being able to do whatever the hell they want to the Palestinian people, that she all of a sudden feels that she's in trouble, that she's persecuted, that they're offending me. And so what happens when somebody of affluence and deep-seated bigotry does when their opportunity is presented to them? They will fight back, and they'll fight back very aggressively, because their crutch which is what hurts the Jewish community, is them saying that because I'm Jewish, you don't like me. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my privilege to F you over. Okay. And that's how Margulies is thinking.
No, and I think you guys are going off on the totally wrong tangent as to what's what. Okay, what you guys are talking about are individual people's personal feelings about groups of people. I don't care about that. I really don't. That's irrelevant to me. What matters as far as racism goes are systems.
Yes.
Our infrastructures, are things that are in place either policy-wise or cultural-wise or economic-wise. Right. So what you guys are focusing on, yes, are there Black people that hate white people?
Yes.
Yes, there are. But that to sit there and talk about that,
and
like
somehow corporate media like MSNBC in particular goes out of their way to try to paint white people in the worst light possible.
Let me finish. What I'm saying is, like, yes, those people exist. That is a real thing. I understand what you're saying, but there is no systemic racism of white people that in any way, shape, or form that I am going to take seriously in a conversation. And that is what we're talking about. And we're not talking about how individual people feel about other people. Yes, people are prejudiced. Good, whatever. Who cares? Move on. I'm talking about systems that keep generally groups of people suppressed.
Here's your system. This is the system right here. Jennifer Sang, thank you very much for sharing that. That's a perfect example. That's the system. That's not one person. That one person could be a piece of shit, but that's a universal problem. And I've seen it.
It's just, it does. I am in
but that's not the reason that people are out there saying that every person, is trying to do that. And Guy, again, the definition of racism that requires power is not the only definition, just the only relevant definition for public policy reasons.
Thank you.
That's it.
And everybody who wants to sit around and bitch about somebody hating on somebody else, I don't care.
Waste of time.
It really is. It really is.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.